Good morning students. Today I am going to teach you one chapter of class 9 Civics, that is democratic rights. In previous chapters we have looked at two major elements of a democratic government. We also saw democratic government has to be periodically elected by the people in a free and fair manner. We also learned that a democracy must be based on necessary but not sufficient for a democracy. Elections and institutions need to be combined with a third element, enjoyment of rights, to make a government democratic. Can you imagine your life without rights? I guess no. But still, there are few countries where rights of citizens are under the control of leaders or the authoritative government. Let me give you some examples. The first is the prison in Guantanamo Bay. About 600 people were secretly picked up by the US forces from all over the world and put in a prison in Guantanamo Bay, an area near Cuba controlled by American Navy. Families of prisoners, media or even UN representatives were not allowed to meet them. The US Army arrested them, interrogated them and decided whether to keep them there or not. There was no trial before any magistrate in the US, nor could these prisoners approach courts in their country. One of the organizations, Amnesty International, an international human rights organization, tried to intervene between the prisoners and the Americans. But it was all failed because they were suspected to be the part of the 9/11 attacks. The second example is about citizens' rights in Saudi Arabia. Now, over there, the country is ruled by a hereditary king and the people have no role in electing or changing their rules. The king selects the legislature as well as the executive. He appoints the judges and can change any of their decisions. Citizens cannot perform political parties or any political organizations. Media cannot report anything that the monarch does not like. There is no freedom of religion. Every citizen is required to be a Muslim. Non-Muslim residents can follow their religion in private but not in public. Women are subjected to many public restrictions. The testimony of one man is considered equal that of two women. We have many rights. This is a wheel, rights in a democracy, and in total we have 6 fundamental rights. Let's see in detail. Now, before starting with the fundamental rights, let's see what is right or what are rights. Rights are claims of a person over other fellow beings, over the society and over the government. Rights are reasonable claims of persons recognized by society and sanctioned by law. Now, why do we need rights in a democracy? It is very important that every citizen of the country should have rights, fundamental rights. Let's see how. Rights are necessary for the very sustenance of a democracy. In a democracy, every citizen has to have the right to vote and the right to be elected to government. Rights also perform a very special role in a democracy. Rights protect minorities from the oppression of majority. Rights are guarantees which can be used when things go wrong. The government should protect the citizens' rights in such a situation. Some rights need to be placed higher than the government so that the government cannot violate them. In most democracies, the basic rights of the citizens are written down in the Constitution. Rights in the Indian Constitution. Let's begin with the first fundamental right, the basic right, that is known as right to equality. The Constitution says that the government shall not deny to any person in India equality before the law or the equal protection of the law. It means that the law apply in the same manner to all regardless of a person's status. This is called the rule of law. Rule of law is the foundation of any democracy. It means that no person is above the law. The government shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. Every citizen shall have access to public places like shops, restaurants, hotels, and cinema halls. Similarly, there shall be no restriction with regard to the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, playgrounds, and the places of public resorts maintained by the government or dedicated to the use of general public. The, Consti- the Constitution mentions one extreme form of social discrimination, the practice of untouchability, and clearly directs the government to put an end of it. The second fundamental right is right to freedom. Freedom means absence of constraints. In practical life, it means absence of interference in our affairs by others, be it other individuals or the government. Freedom of speech and expression, assembly in a peaceful manner, form of association and unions, move freely throughout the country, reside in any part of the country, practice any profession, or to carry on any occupation, trade, or business. So these are certain rights that has been given by the government. Citizens have the right to hold meetings, processions, rallies, and demonstrations on any issue, freedom to travel to any part of the country, and all citizens have life or personal liberty. The third right is right against exploitation. Once the right to liberty and equality is granted, it follows that every citizen has a right not to be exploited. The Constitution mentions three specific evils and declares these illegal. First, the Constitution prohibits traffic in human beings. Traffic here means selling and buying of human beings. Second, our Constitution also prohibits forced labor or beggar in any form. Beggar is a practice where the workers is forced to render service to the master free of charge or at a nominal remuneration. Finally, the Constitution also prohibits child labor. No one can employ a child below the age of 14 to work in any factory or mine or in any other hazardous work such as railways and ports. Next is right to freedom of religion. Right to freedom of religion means right to freedom includes right to freedom of religion as well. In this case too, the constitution makers were very particular to state it clearly. India is a secular state. Secularism is based on the idea that the state is concerned only with relations among human beings and not with the relation between human beings and God. Every person has a right to profess, practice, and propagate the religion. He or she believes in every religious group or sect is free to manage its religious affairs. Next is cultural and educational right. Over here, any section of citizens with a distinct language or culture have a right to conserve it. Next, admission to any educational institution maintained by government or receiving government aid cannot be denied to any citizen on the ground of religion or language. All minorities have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. Here, minorities do not mean only religious minority. At the national level, in some places, people speaking a particular language, or in majority, people speaking in different language, or in minority, also have the right to have cultural and educational right. The last one, where you can secure your fundamental rights, is the right to constitutional remedies. If rights are like guarantees, they are of no use if there is no one to honor them. The fundamental rights in the Constitution are important because they are enforceable. Right to constitutional remedies, this itself is a fundamental right. This right makes other rights effective. It is possible that sometimes our rights may be violated by fellow citizens, private bodies, or by the government. When any of our rights are violated, we can seek remedy through courts. If it is a fundamental right, we can directly approach the Supreme Court or the High Court of a state. Next is, what is scope of rights, or how can you have scope of rights? The courts gave judgments to expand the scope of rights. Certain rights like right to freedom of press, right to information and right to education are derived from the fundamental rights. Now school education has become a right for Indian citizens. The governments are responsible for providing free and compulsory education to all children up to the age of 14 years. Parliament has enacted a law giving the right to information to the citizens. There is an international body which is also known as International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. They have given certain points such as right to work, opportunity to everyone to earn livelihood by working, right to safe and healthy working conditions, fair wages that can provide decent standard of living for the workers and their families, right to adequate standard of living including adequate food, clothing and housing, right to social security and insurance, right to health, medical care during illness, special care for women during childbirth and prevention of epidemics, right to education, free and compulsory primary education, equal access to higher education. Thus, the scope of rights has been expanding and new rights are evolving over time. They are a result of struggle of the people. New rights emerge as societies develop or as new constitutions are made. Thank you.